Welcome to High Stakes. I'm your host, Tracey Devlyn. On this show, I chat with authors about the moments in their stories that change everything, what's at stake, what it costs, and why we can't look away. From thrillers to romance to sci-fi and beyond. Let's get to it. Joining me today is New York Times bestselling author Tess Gerritsen to talk about her new spy thriller, The Shadow Friends. Welcome to the show, Tess.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So happy to have you here. The Shadow Friends takes us back to Purity, Maine, where murder and spies abound, it seems.
Yes.
This yeah, this book is number three in your Martini Club series, where we get to learn a whole lot more about Ingrid, who is quite a force, isn't she?
She is. I mean, of my five spies who I focus on, Ingrid I always think of as the smart one in the group. Four of them were covert operatives, and one of them was an analyst who spent most of his career behind a desk. So they all have different talents, they all have different abilities, but Ingrid is the one who can think around corners.
Yeah, yeah. Although she does a bit of a disappearing act during the first part of the book, we get to see Ingrid in her element, which was really fun because I think I mentioned to you last year when we spoke that she kind of elbowed her way up to the top of my favorite character list there. So I was very happy to see her story. But did you know Ingrid's backstory before you started this book, or did you discover it during the first draft? Because I think you're a little bit more of a kind of an organic writer, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I did not. I didn't know her backstory till I
Yeah.
started this particular book. What I knew when I started it was I wanted to look at their marriage. I know Ingrid, here she is, a high-powered, smart covert op, married to a beta male, an
Yeah.
ultimate beta male whose favorite place is being in the kitchen. Um,
Yes.
so I wanted to know what was that marriage like? How did she end up marrying him? And what if I put that marriage under threat? How would Lloyd react? Because Lloyd has always been the comic relief of this story, of these stories. He's the one who's always bringing out the trays of hors d'oeuvres, and
Yes.
mixing up the martinis. He's a lovable guy, but you don't think of him as an action hero. I wanted to make him, I put him in a situation where he would have to find his inner hero. Because it's
Yeah.
always fun to watch the unexpected hero suddenly come into himself.
Yeah. Well, he had proper motivation, which you as the author gave him, which was wonderful. Did you have a really fun time kind of lighting that fire beneath our affable chef
Oh,
in the story?
that was the most, I mean, yeah, this is a story about assassinations and about
Yeah.
polonium and about all the spy stuff. But in a way, it was really about this marriage and about temptation. So when the story opens, it's Ingrid who is tempted. One of her former colleagues from her past, who was also a spy and was also her lover, comes back into her life. And he still looks great. I mean, Rodrigo still looks like Antonio Banderas, and he's still got
Yeah.
it, right? But he lures her into this dangerous operation. So she's faced with the temptation of one, going back to being an active spy, which she loved, and number two, he's still looking pretty good. So when she suddenly disappears on this operation, Lloyd is left to pick up the pieces. He does not know what's going on because she's not allowed to talk.
Yeah.
So what does he do? Lloyd is desperately in love with his wife. He will do anything to save his marriage, and it's fun to see how far he goes, how many mistakes he makes, and how his friends, the other members of the Martini Club, are always trying to protect him. When in the end, he is the one who has to be the hero.
Yeah. Thank goodness for Maggie.
Yeah, yeah, she pulls him out of a couple of very bad situations.
She does indeed. All right. Well, before we dive too much further into the book, I was wondering if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself for folks who might not have come across you yet.
Well, I've been writing for, oh God,
Yeah.
40 years. It's really hard to believe. I've written, I think this is my 33rd book. I've
Wow.
written
Congratulations. I mean, that's
romantic
wonderful.
suspense. I've written medical thrillers because I was a doctor. I've written crime novels. I've written historicals. I've written a science fiction. I've even written a sexy ghost story. I came to the spy novels really late in my career, even though this is where I live. I live in a
Mm.
town like Purity. I live in a town which is full of retired spies, something that I discovered soon after I moved here in 1990. But I've been sitting on this kind of milieu for decades because I didn't really know what to do with it. I think I had to get older. I had to feel what it was like to be retirement age, to maybe be discounted because I'm not as young as I used to be, to really get into the heads of these characters.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that this age group of sleuths is having a day, right? So we have their names are escaping me right now, but the Murder Club. Oh shoot, there's a TV series out about it right now too. But so they're like a group
Yeah,
of older
Thursday
th
night murder.
Thursday Murder Club. That's what it is. Yes, yes. And so yeah, and there's a couple of other ones out there too that where you've got these older sleuths and things like that. And I just love them. I think they're wonderful. They really say what's on their mind, and
Yeah.
it just
Well,
it's
these sleuths have always been with us. I mean, going
yeah.
back to Miss Marple and Agatha Christie, I think the reason we feel like they're invisible is for the same reason we older people become invisible. Hollywood doesn't want them.
Yeah.
When we see sleuths on television or in movies, they tend to be young and glamorous. Well, older sleuths have always been written about. For me, it was just a matter of my getting old enough to understand what it was like to really
Yeah.
be able to dive into the situation of what it's like to be an older person and have this innate conflict with the younger generation. You know, the
Mm.
younger generation looks at older people and they don't think much of us. But after getting to be my age and after finding out about all these retired spies, when I go into the grocery store and I see an older person pushing a grocery cart, I mean, I used to think, oh, how sweet, they're a nice little old retiree. Now I wonder, did you have a dangerous life? You know, did you used to carry a gun? What is it about you that you can't tell me? And
Yeah,
because all these
yeah.
spies who live up here, all the ones who work covert ops, they do not talk. They cannot talk about their lives.
Now, this might be something, an answer you don't know, but is there like a time period where these CIA operatives where they can talk about it if they so choose? Is there like an expiration date on some of this stuff where they're like, okay, it's okay to talk about that now?
It's my experience they don't. They don't
Okay.
ever.
Okay.
Except for one person who became quite notorious up in this area for talking about it, but that was because he had Alzheimer's disease.
Oh,
And then he wouldn't
oh,
stop talking about it.
oh my gosh.
But from what I hear,
Yeah.
talking to the children of these spies, a lot of them never knew that dad was a spy.
Hmm.
Several of them told me they didn't find out until after their parent died, and they went through their papers and found out. One woman came
Oh.
up to me at a book signing. She said, after reading your book, I understand now why my family kept moving between countries and why I had three different passports with different names. So these are children who, I mean, they think dad works as a consultant for an oil company, not knowing what dad really does.
Oh, interesting. Oh my gosh, if you're going to have a number four, that Alzheimer's, that's kind of an interesting because there there would be agencies out there who would not want that information to get
No,
out, wouldn't
no, exactly.
there? Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, as always, publishing is ever changing, and I think authors now they're more comfortable with blending genres and writing in different genres. Seems to just be more acceptable now than even it was 5 years ago. But you have always you had just mentioned a number of genres that you have written in and have done so for a number of years, as you said. So you've never, it seems to me that you've never really been confined by that genre box or those expectations from your publisher. And I'm just real curious, was that something that you had to struggle with? And forgive me if this is too personal a question, but is that something you had to struggle with your publishers to publish, sci-fi whenever you were doing so well in crime fiction, that sort of thing, or was it never really an issue?
It was always an issue. Uh,
Okay.
your publisher doesn't want you to write out of genre. They know how to sell you and in your current drawer. Once
Yes.
you're in a drawer and they can brand you and they know you're a medical thriller writer, it's like, don't get out of there because then we won't know what to do with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes what happens is you have to change publishers to be able to change genres.
Okay.
I've been published by multiple publishers, and every time I changed genres, it was a bit of a struggle to convince anybody that I this is what
Mm.
I wanted to do. I did it because a story would occur to me that I couldn't not write. Um,
Yeah.
and even though I understood the risks, and there are risks, the story was what compelled me to write that particular book. The risks are that when you do change genre, you lose your readers.
Hmm.
They don't know what to do. People didn't know what to do with my book Gravity. And they just said, oh, science fiction. Oh, it's hard science fiction. Um, hard with hardware and science and all kinds of technical details. I still think it's one of my best books, but it did not sell as well as to be expected.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now I'm trying to remember, did you publish that under your name or did they have you use a different pen name?
No, it's the same name.
It's the same name.
Tess Gerritsen.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yes, because I think that sometimes happens where when you write outside of your genre, they ask you to try a
Yeah.
different pen name, right? So you don't
Right. And it's a
confuse things.
practical thing. So your audience doesn't get confused.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but if you don't write really fast, like I can only write at the most a book a year.
yeah.
mm, I want those books out under my name, so I didn't want to change the name.
Yeah. Well, and then trying to maintain all those different personas with different websites and different social
Oh, it's
media.
awful. It's a
It's like a
nightmare.
nightmare, right? It's hard
Yes.
enough to keep up with one set.
Well, it's terrible right now to be a new writer breaking in because we're expected to do so much more than we ever did before.
Yeah.
Before you could just write the book, and now you got to have social media. You have to do this. You have to do that. It takes away from what we're really there to do, which is tell a story.
Just write the book. Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we've mentioned, this is the third book in your Martini Club series.
Yes.
Would you just take a moment to give us maybe the setup of the series for those who haven't come across it yet, and then share what you can of the Shadow Friends, if you don't mind?
Sure. Well, this all started, as I mentioned, because I discovered in my small town I'm surrounded by retired CIA. In fact, it's been here so long that 40 years ago, one of the first things that the spies and State Department retirees did was they started a conference called the Camden Conference, which is a global affairs conference that happens every year. It brings in speakers from around the world, amazing speakers, ambassadors, generals. And I always wondered, how do you get them here to a little town of 5,000 people in February? Um,
Yeah.
but they come. So that's where it all started was I knew I had spies in my town. And
Uh,
one day I woke up and I heard a woman's voice saying to me, I'm not the woman I used to be. And
mm,
that was Maggie Bird's voice, my heroine from the first book. And you learned in that first book that she's moved to a little town in Maine. She's now a chicken farmer. She has four friends who are also retired spies, and they have like their own little martini club. They are a book club, they call it, even though they seldom read the book. And that first book, you understand why Maggie left the CIA under tragic circumstances. You learn to know who these five people are, but you also learn that there is a female cop who's the chief of police in town. She's in her 30s, young woman, good, solid Maine girl who just wants to protect her town. And she realizes by the end of the first book that these five people are not just five old people. She finds out that they're always ahead of her in a murder investigation. So the second book followed the same group in the summer guests. And it has to do with the disappearance of a teenager who was a summer person on the lake. And then we come to the third book, which has the same set of characters, but I focus on Ingrid, who is, I mentioned, the smartest one. She was married to Lloyd. They're happily married, been happily married for years. And then one of Ingrid's former colleagues and a man who was also her lover comes back into her life, lures her into a covert operation that's quite dangerous, and leaves behind her poor husband, Lloyd. So he and the rest of the group try to find out what happened to Ingrid. That's kind of the engine of the story is what happened to the marriage. But the mystery behind it is based on the Camden Conference. I start off the story with a kind of a shocking death at the local Global Affairs Conference. One of the speakers has died, and they soon find out it was polonium poisoning. Now, polonium is only made in Russia. So you know this is an assassination. And there was a good reason to kill this man. He was a defector from Russia, and he is a big infectious disease expert who's been working on, possible global pandemics for the future. So there's this background of espionage, but it's also a very personal story. Will this marriage survive? And
Yeah.
that was where it started because I
Yeah.
wanted to see how Lloyd would become a hero.
And he did indeed. He did not disappoint. It was great. Well, and this thread with the polonium and the Russian element of it, that I now I don't know if you found other stories about the use of this. I think that you probably did because it seemed like you were referencing some of those in the story
Yes.
itself. But they waited 18 years for their moment to get this guy, and that just shows you the patience there. And I wonder if that's, the case with them as well,
It, it
in real
is,
life.
yeah, it is true. You know what? Once Putin decides you are his enemy, he doesn't give up.
Yeah.
And there have been cases of people assassinated in the UK, defectors who didn't get killed until 5 years after they'd left. So you always have to be looking over your shoulder. Anybody
Yeah.
who's a defector knows that he's putting a big target on his back.
Yeah.
A lot of them are protected by our intelligence agencies. They give them new identities. They come, and usually in the United States, they're pretty safe. Russia doesn't like to do assassinations on US soil because it looks bad and
Yeah.
politically kind of a bad move, but they have been doing it everywhere else. I mean, England has had multiple people assassinated. It's not just polonium, it's that umbrella dart that they use ricin in. I mean, that killed somebody years ago. There's
Yeah.
been nerve gas. There's been multiple people who've fallen out of windows.
Yeah. I've heard
Yeah,
about those.
I mean, I
Yes.
I looked it up, and it seemed that there have been about 50 assassinations in the last 20 years.
Wow.
So it's hard to be an enemy of Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, on this show, we like to talk about the story stakes, and I always joke, love, death, and the fate of the realm are all high stakes in a story.
Right.
But I'd like to hear what your thoughts on what was personally at stake for Ingrid and Lloyd. And you might have already covered this, and if you have, we can just move on as far as,
Mhm.
their marriage and everything. But I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add in there that you
Well,
feel.
by the end, it's Ingrid's life that is at stake. All these assassinations come back home, follow them home to Maine, and in pursuit of Ingrid. And I loved seeing how these five friends all coalesce to try and protect her and the mistakes they make as well. And there's some moral ambiguity involved in spying as well. I mean, they don't do everything, like ethically speaking.
Yeah,
I
as
mean,
Joe tells us in the story over and over again, right?
poor Joe, Joe Thibodeau, my cop, does everything by the book. She doesn't even like to lie. It really makes her upset when she has to lie, but she's lying all the time on behalf of these people. And so she's getting really angry at them for putting her in these bad situations. But there is one scene where they catch who they think is an assassin out to kill Ingrid. And so they want to get the truth out of him. So what are they going to do? Are they going to waterboard him? Are they going to torture him? Well, it's very clear that that is not too far a bridge for them, that they would be willing to do that. And when Joe said, and then what are you going to do with him after you finish torturing him? And their response is, it wouldn't be in your jurisdiction. Don't worry about it. So the point is that, yeah, sometimes they do things that are not entirely legal, but when the operation calls for it, they will break the rules.
They'll do what they have to do to complete their mission, I guess. Yeah.
Right, right. I mean, as if you look at the history of the CIA, that's not too far from reality.
Yeah. Well, about 2 years ago, we vacationed in your fair state of Maine and visited all the touristy places like Acadia National Park and
Oh,
the beautiful town of Bar Harbor. And in Bar Harbor, there was this wonderful bookshop called Sherman's. I'm sure
yes,
you've heard of it. And
yes.
they had this giant wall of local authors, of which you were a part of it. And it seems that Maine it births many creatives there. There are a lot of authors there, it seems like.
We do. I think the Washington Post wrote an article about how Maine is one of the top states per capita of novelists.
Wow, I'll
And
be
it's
darned.
funny, we only have about 1 million people in the state, but we have a huge number of novelists. I mean, the most famous of which, of course, is Stephen King. Um, but there is something about this place that attracts novelists and photographers and visual artists, and now we're starting to get a pretty good film industry going here. Um,
Oh, good.
I think it's because people who are creative and can live anywhere choose to live in a beautiful place, and they come
Mm,
here. And there's this, you know, I think there's a critical mass of fellow writers to talk to. So you aren't all by yourself in your little cabin. You can always come out to the coffee shop and find another writer there. So it's a great place to create. And I also think the long winters help. When winter
mm.
comes and there's nothing else you can do but stay indoors, you're forced to focus on your characters. So that's when I write the best, is when it's winter.
In the wintertime, yeah, I could
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah. And the
Have
other
you?
question is, well, why do so many spies come here? Because that was the other question that I had to answer. And I keep hearing different explanations. I mean, our book
Oh,
is we're far from any nuclear targets. This used to
uh,
be a place for safe houses. There was a very small branch of MK Ultra possibly working here, which might have brought spies up here. Um,
which was part of your number two book, right? The
one of my
Summer
number two
Gas.
book.
Yeah, yeah.
And but probably the main thing is that when they were recruiting spies early in right as OSS was becoming the CIA, they were recruiting them from Ivy League schools like
Mm.
Yale and Harvard. And these were young, well-to-do men mostly who had spent their boyhoods doing summer vacations here on our bay. So when it came time for them to retire, they just came back. They brought their friends, they brought their colleagues, and before you know it, we have this critical mass of spies.
That's amazing. Now, have you, with the authors that are in that area, have you built this little community, kind of like your martini club? Maybe not with the martinis and the book clubs, but do you feel like it's a close-knit community?
Well,
Oh,
we know of each other. The problem is we're
yeah.
really spread out because the
Oh,
state of Maine is
yeah.
not there's not no real focused concentration of people.
Gotcha.
But we do
Yeah.
have an organization that is probably one of the few in the country called the Maine Writers and Publishers Alliance, and
Oh,
it is supported by the state. The state,
I'll be darned.
gives money to it, and of course, private donations. And it is a statewide organization that has workshops and holds conferences and every year it has its own mystery writers convention. So for a little state like us, I think we punch way above our weight.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. What is the conference called? The Mystery Writers
It's
Conference.
called Crime Wave.
Oh, I've heard of that. I didn't,
Yeah.
I for some reason I didn't realize that was in Maine, but I've heard of that. That's
In
great.
Portland. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Very cool. All right. Well, we'll switch gears just a little bit for the last few questions here, just to get to know you as the author behind the book a bit. Through your hard work, you've enjoyed what appears to be an incredibly successful writing career. Has there ever been a moment when you thought, is this really happening to me?
Oh, that happened way back when I first sold my big bestseller Harvest, and
Oh,
that's just
yeah.
back in 1996. Because up
Wow.
till then I had been doing romantic suspense novels, paperback novels, and I thought, well, these are fun, but you'll never put your kid through college with paperback romances. And after I had my first big book deal, that was like when I thought, oh my God, maybe I can actually make a living at this. But
Yeah.
there are ups and downs in every writer's career. There are times when you think, I'm in a death spiral, I'll never sell another book, or I'll never write another book. But those of us who are persistent just keep at it no matter what.
Yeah, I really love, I come from the romance background too, and so I really love that you don't hide that fact because in some circles romance can be kind of a, kind of a dirty word that dirty stepsister. I'm not sure what the right way to phrase it is, but I love that you always acknowledge that, you know, that's where your writing roots have come from. Was there a time when you felt like the suspense element of your writing was kind of taking over that romance part, and that's the reason you started writing your medical thrillers?
I think suspense has always been part of my romance novels.
Yeah.
It's because I grew up loving mysteries, but I also
Mm,
love reading romances.
yeah.
So, and I was writing for Harlequin Intrigue, which has that wonderful 50-50 um, melding of romance plus danger.
Yeah.
And, when people say, "Oh, you wrote romance," I like to say every genre is hard. There is no
Yeah.
easy genre. Romance is, in a way, romance is even more difficult because it's all about romantic tension. It's all about tension between two people, and there may not even be danger. So how
Hmm.
do you keep that tension going when there's no murder involved? That's not always easy. I'm very proud of the romance novels that I wrote because I remember them being a challenge as well, just as much a challenge
Yeah.
as writing a murder mystery.
Yeah. No, I agree. You have two arcs that have to meet and make sense and
Right.
tie up together,
You're
right?
weaving two things together. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, what's one thing that readers might be surprised to learn about you?
I'm very what's the word? I I never believe I can do it again.
Oh,
This lack of
yes.
confidence, I'll finish a book and then I'll go, how did I do it the last time? I have no idea what I'm doing when I sit down to start a book, and the twists and turns all happen on the page. It's always more along the lines of, oh, what if they found this? What does that mean? Well, I'll figure it out later, and
Yeah.
it's always just throwing in the twist and then by the end trying to figure out how to explain it all.
Nice. Now, I'm sure your process has changed over the years, obviously, as you've as your craft has uh, improved and increased, and you know, you've gotten more wily about how you do things. Uh, have let's say like in the last three books or so, is your process the same with each book, or is it different with each book
I
now?
think the process is still the same.
Okay.
It's still maybe I know, okay, I start off with the emotional heart of the story. I don't know what the plot is, but I know what my characters are going to be, what they're going to be struggling with.
Yeah.
So I didn't know necessarily what the plot of the Shadow Friends was. I just knew that the emotional heart was temptation at an old age.
Oh, nice.
And how do you keep a marriage alive?
Yeah,
And how far will a beta male go to become the hero of his own story? So that's all I knew. And
that's it.
I was just wanting to challenge Lloyd.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. All right. What's your favorite thing to do when you finish a book? How do you celebrate or treat yourself, or do you?
Oh, I always try to treat myself, and it
Good.
usually involves alcohol. I mean,
Perfect.
like my spies, I happen to
Yeah,
love martinis, and that's where I'll go. I'll pull out the vodka and and
great. Shake it
yeah, and
up.
an
Yeah.
olive and shake it up, right?
That's great. All right. Well, before we go, can you share what's coming up next?
Yeah, I'm working on the fourth book in the series. It's called The Italian Affair,
Oh,
and this
great.
one focuses on Joe Thibodeau, my innocent cop, who she wins a trip to Italy. She's never been out of the country. So
That's
she
great.
goes to Italy and she does, something that upright Joe would never do. She has a one night stand with a man she
Ooh.
meets in a bar, and then
Oh, great.
she disappears. And so
Oh, no. Okay.
Martini Club has to go find and rescue Joe. That's the setup for the
Oh
Italian.
my gosh. I cannot wait for that one. Do you have a title for it yet or not yet?
We're calling it the Italian Affair because
Italian Affair. That's right. I'm sorry.
it
You
takes
said that.
place in
Gotcha.
Italy, and it is a one night stand.
Okay. I love it. I can't wait to see the cover on that one. Thomas and Mercer have been doing such a great job with the cover and with the titles. Or maybe you're giving the
Oh no,
titles. I'm
they
not sure.
they come up with a lot
Oh,
of time with my titles. Yes.
all right, perfect. Yeah, they're just wonderful. Now, I think last time we spoke, this was a little over a year ago now, you had submitted a pilot, I don't know if episode is the right word, but for Vacation Land, and you had mentioned that the Spy Coast was in development with Amazon Studios. Now
Yeah.
we know these things take a ton of time. Are there any updates on those, or are those still kind of where they were?
As far as I know, Spy Coast is still in development. Vacation Land was bought, but NBC has kept it on the shelf, so I don't think
Oh,
I'm not sure it's going. But I do have a TV movie coming out in February. I believe it's going to be aired. It's called Murder in a Cold Place.
oh, fun,
It
fun.
is
And what
it's a
channel or?
movie. It's a TV movie on Lifetime, a TV movie that
Okay.
my screenwriting partner and I wrote, and it's about a female detective from Miami who has a really traumatic experience, leaves her city, goes as far away as she can, and ends up in Anchorage, Alaska, where
Okay.
she gets paired up with another female detective, and they kind of hate each other, but they are going to solve a crime.
I love it. Oh, that sounds exciting. I can't wait. Now it's in February on
Yes,
Lifetime.
it's already been filmed,
It's
and I
great.
think they're just doing some final edits on it.
All right. Wonderful. You've got all sorts of cool stuff going on. That's great. I'm very happy for you. Well, folks, be sure to order your copy of The Shadow Friends today. You can learn more about Tess by visiting tessgerritsen.com, where you'll find all of her social media links, and be sure to sign up for her newsletter while you're there. Tess, thank you so much for spending some of your precious time with me today. I really, really appreciate it, and it was so great catching up with you again.
No, thanks a lot, Tracy. It's always fun to talk to you.
That's it for today's high stakes story. Follow the show so the next episode lands right in your feed. And if you enjoyed today's chat, a quick rating or review helps new listeners find us. Visit tracydevlyn.com/podcast for show notes and links to today's amazing guest and their fabulous book. High Stakes is a proud member of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. Thanks for listening. Until next time, enjoy the adventure, everyone.